Now, just putting these tappets back in order, this is literally how I took them out. So I haven't cleaned them or anything yet. I do have just a little bit of cleaning fluid here. I'm just going to give them a bit of a wipe over because they've been sitting and getting all dirty and dusty. Once they look nice and clean like that, now I'm just using a little bit of diesel, so essentially it's kind of oily anyway. And that's our first one that we'll pop back in. Now, if I just do one at a time, I'm not going to get these mixed up. It's tempting just to clean them all, but I don't want to have that problem today. Sometimes they get really crusty in there, and yes, I should probably be wearing gloves, but hey, sometimes you just do what you got to do. Now, I will put a fair bit of oil on these once they're in place as well. But at least by cleaning them this way and then putting them straight in, they're it's certainly not going in dry. That's kind of oily already. Just be careful when you're putting them in. I've just done it with this one. If you put them in and you kind of don't have them lined up, you can wedge them in. They really don't need any force to go in. So if they're not fitting in nicely, pull them back out. Don't push them at all. They should just literally drop into place. Now we can get this up and out of the way. Hey, next thing now is to put these cams back in. Make sure you do check them over. Look, these have a little bit of wear, but I'm not too stressed by it. Also remember, these are hollow cams. So there's oil that's traveling through them and comes out of these like little holes here. So make sure you give it a really good clean and there's no sort of sludge or anything in here. Now when we sit this in, this little lug here is kind of facing that way. Or if you remember, these sort of lobes were facing away from each other. Now I'm just going to sit that on here. Just sit it on there loosely. We need to be pretty careful when we're putting these cams in because it is possible to break these. Now let's grab the exhaust one. The little lug on the exhaust faces up, or those lobes are facing out. So we'll sit that in just like that. Make sure it's sitting in as nice as it can. Now just note, they don't always sit down flat. We've got some lobes here pushing against these valves, and these valves are shut at the moment. So as we tighten it up, it's going to open those valves up. But before I start putting these caps on, I just want to put a couple of squirts of oil just on each of these journals. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, so the next piece we've got here is this cam cover that bolts down in here. Now it is a sealing surface, so it's going to need some silicone on it. So the manual tells us just to run a bead of silicone in this outer groove here and here, and that's all you need. We also will have a bead up and around here, or you could put it on here, and then we'll assemble that like that. Don't have to have all this here smeared with silicone because this part of it is all internal anyway. So if there happened to be a leak from the high pressure oil that comes up through here, it is only going to leak internally. But look, we're trusting on the fact that these are two machine surfaces here and here, so it's going to be a nice tight fit. If you put silicone here, it's likely to go down into these grooves, end up into your cams, end up into the variable valve gear here and cause you more issues. So better to no silicone and just a tiny bit like they suggest over here. Now I can't do the silicone as well as they can in their little picture, but let's just put a little bit across there. I'm just going to smear it a bit with my finger, and I'm just going to put a little bit on there. That doesn't matter there. We'll just go to the edge. Again, tiny little bit of silicone. Just kind of filling up that little groove. Now you don't want that groove totally filled, but what I do want to do is just kind of keep any excess on that side of the groove. This part here doesn't really matter anyway, I don't know why I'm doing it. Just good habit, I guess. Okay, so it's just that small amount of silicone there. Now you can put the silicone up on here, but I'm just going to choose just to put it on this piece. I'm just going to give that a light smear over. Nothing is uglier than seeing these cars with a big splat of silicone that's just been pressed out. Okay, just while that silicone is just sitting there getting a little bit tacky, what I'm going to do is just start installing the caps. Now, I couldn't see when I pulled them off. These have now all been cleaned up. We have numbers on them, 2, 3, 4 and 5. It has numbers for the intake and letters for the exhaust. So the numbers are going up here. So I'll just pop that down at number 5, number 4, 3 and 2. I'm just going to start each of the bolts. Now the exhaust has letters, so it's A, B, C, D. Let me put it in order. Now also note that A has this extra little groove here which comes to this oil feed hole. So too did this one up here. I didn't mention anything then. So again, I'm just going to sit this on here. It's A, B, C and D. I want to be super careful when we do these up, and you've got to follow this tightening sequence. So essentially it's cap number 1, well 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it just tightens it down evenly for you. Otherwise it is likely on these you can bend or crack the cam. Often too it can wedge in this little section in here. So I've just got this set to the smallest amount of force that I possibly can, just so I can begin to zip them down. As soon as I start to see it pushing down on the cam, I don't go anymore. And I'm just doing this for speed. Come over to 5. Just doing it for speed because it just takes forever otherwise. Okay, so at this point I've gone through once, but these aren't all quite tight down. There's a little gap under all of them. So I'm just going to come through a second time now. Look, now I'm feeling confident that they're down. Obviously I haven't torqued it or done anything like that yet, but I've brought that camshaft down nice and straight. I haven't done my end one yet. I'm just going to now do the exact same over here on the intake. I'll just do it again because it's still a little bit all loose. Okay, so with that now, I feel that they've all just been done up. They're firm, but they're certainly not torqued. But now I can put this end cap on. So in that few minutes, my silicone's gone kind of nice and tacky. Carefully put it in because I don't want to smear this surface off. Sit that in there. Now remember, we finished at 8, so now we've got 9, 10 and 11. And they don't talk about the ones that we've got to do up in here. So let's just do these ones here first. 9, 10, 11. I'll just do those twice. Now again, let's talk torques. I may have jumped some of these if I've done them up a little bit too firm already, but I think we're going to be all right. So first they want 2 Newton meters. So 2 Newton meters, which happens to be 1 foot-pound. So that's the first. Then they want you to take it to 6 Newton meters. Sorry, let me be accurate, 5.9 Newton meters. Or 4, there's a decimal in there, it's 5.9, not 59. 4 foot-pounds. And the last torque we want on it is 10.4 Newton meters, which equates to 8 foot-pounds. Okay, so we've probably already done 2, but let's get the torque wrench out and see where we're at. Now my torque wrench, the lowest setting I've got on it is a 4. So it's going to be where I take them to. But they are tightening up, so that's a good thing. So that was the first one done. Next one we're setting it to 5.9 Newton meters or 4 foot-pounds. Look, these multiple steps here really are just to make sure that you're tightening it down evenly. But spend the time. Look, it's a couple of minutes and then you just know it's right. Okay, so that was that second stage. Last stage, we're going to 10.4 Newton meters or 8 foot-pounds. Just going from experience and feel, they feel a fraction loose, but I'm going to rely on the specs they've given. Okay, so once you've done the couple passes on that, you can put that away. Look, just to let you know, I actually just zipped them up a little bit tighter than that spec that was there. It just felt a little bit too loose for me. So I don't know, maybe it's my torque wrench, maybe it's the fact it's a 40-degree day today here in Australia. I don't know, it just felt a little bit too loose, so I literally just snugged them up a tiny little bit more. Now we've also got these 2 bolts that come into the housing here. So they're accessed from in through here. Again, put a cloth down in here if you think you're going to potentially drop them in. Now, as you tighten this up, you will get a little bit of silicone kind of splurt out. You really shouldn't have much, otherwise it's just a big ugly mess. Just a nice little squeeze. Now I don't have the torque spec on these ones, but it could be similar to what you've just been doing up.